right, Dr. Pham with the Reach Center.
I'm Jennifer Hamps, dietitian joining the Reach Center.
So today I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I commonly see, which is people who have different abilities as they go through adolescence, as their bodies change, as they grow. Oftentimes we'll see a decline in function or a loss of function just because their environment is growing. Their body is physically larger and more difficult to move around. And so oftentimes this comes at a time where children then become less mobile, and oftentimes then we'll see a change in weight. And so I often will talk about kind of how do you maintain a healthy weight for optimizing function, knowing that there's a risk of this happening. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's so important to talk about a healthy weight because for every child, every person, that's going to look different. We want to support optimal growth to make sure that we can support them on their growth curve and getting all the nutrients they need to grow, but adequate movement, balanced nutrients. Sometimes kiddos will skip meals or maybe not have a routine schedule, and they can end up craving or overeating at times. But if you can really incorporate balanced breakfast, lunch, dinner, some healthy snacks in there, a lot of times it's easier to find a weight where you feel good. It feels good in your body to move and to sort of avoid that conundrum that you talked about with decreased mobility.
Right. And I think so often with decreased mobility, if you maintain what you're eating, then oftentimes we see adolescents gaining weight because they're losing function just because their body is growing. Then they're moving less. They're eating the same things, and because of their reduction in function and mobility, they then lose more mobility. And that can be a really big challenge. That can mean someone going from walking with a walker or a gait trainer to being a primary wheelchair user. And so I think it's really important to think about how we can help to maintain that healthy weight to be as high functioning as possible in the context of what we know is kind of the natural history of a specific disorder. What are the maybe top 3 things that you would recommend to an adolescent or a family who has an adolescent who's kind of going through this period of transition?
I think it's really important to start to focus on things that you can add in instead of take away. So rather than restriction, think about where can we add in more vegetables? Where can we prioritize protein? Can we get more fiber into a favorite cereal or a favorite snack? Can we switch from, let's say, cheese to a nut butter or something like that, where we're getting the fiber, the healthy fats, the things that feed the rest of our body and our brain too. So I like to focus on adding in. And then for mobility and muscle strength and growth, I think about protein a lot. So making sure our protein needs are met, because when we consume enough protein and fat and fiber, we tend to feel satiated and full for longer, which can help people really get better in tune with their interoception, their hunger, and their fullness.
I love that because I think so often when we think about like a diet, what are we taking away? You can't have that. You can't have that. You can't have that. And it seems super restrictive, whereas it's more of a let's add in these specific things. And one of the things that I recommend often, I usually get a lot of eye rolls from adolescents, is the strive for 5, 3 vegetables, 3 servings of vegetables, 2 fruits. And then if you're adding protein to that, there's not a lot of room for anything else, right? That's a lot of food if you end up eating all of that, right? And so I think, filling in the things that are going to be more supportive can really be helpful. And I like that approach. And I think it's probably more successful.
Yeah, I think it's just the way you're thinking about it. Your brain's focused on a positive association rather than a negative, the takeaway, the restriction, what I can't have. Whereas how do I incorporate these other things and maybe I start to enjoy them or start to think that vegetables are more fun or fruits are delicious. And when your palate starts to adjust to different foods, it's not as challenging to work them into your diet.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I will never forget this, a 10-year-old who, whenever I asked what his favorite vegetable was, he said chicken. And chicken, great, lots of lean protein. I like that, but chicken is not a vegetable. So how do you deal with the like, I don't want to eat vegetables. I don't like vegetables. Like how do you recommend?
I think it would depend on the age of the kid.
Uh-huh.
And also their preferences. Do they like crunchy? Do they like salty? Do they want it cooked or steamed? Is the smell really bothering them? Do they want it mixed into something, or do they want it plain? Really figuring out what they like sensory wise, taste, texture, smell, what it looks like. And then to sort of make it an experiment. This works well for maybe like 4 to 12-year-olds. And then as you get older, it becomes more cooking. What recipes can we try? How can we make these foods taste good?
Right. Engaging them in
in the process. Maybe going
food.
to a farmer's market or a new grocery store, or challenging yourself to pick one new thing from a grocery store and look up a fun recipe to try and make that.
That's great. I love that. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.